Before time began, there was the cube. We know not where it comes from, only that it holds the power to create worlds and fill them with life. That is how our race was born. For a time we lived in harmony, but like all great power, some wanted it for good, others for evil. And so began the war. A war that ravaged our planet until it was consumed by death. And the cube was lost to the far reaches of space. We scattered across the galaxy, hoping to find it and rebuild our home, searching every star, every world. And just when all hope seemed lost, message of a new discovery drew us to an unknown planet called Earth. But we were already too late.
Welcome everyone back to another episode of Journey with PKD. Thanks for stopping on by. Here we are continuing in these latest episodes our little mini-series on the 4 basic functions of myth, brought to us by Joseph Campbell. The first function being the mystical function, and now we're diving into the second, which is the cosmological function. Now, the cosmological function, cosmology, sounds like a big word. It essentially is just a description of the universe, how it works, the things you're experiencing within the universe, the phenomena within it, what's happening essentially, how the universe came to be. That's kind of the bigger question, but also the phenomena within it. So in astronomy, in astrophysics, it's the Big Bang Theory all the way up to solar system formation, star clusters, you name it. It's wrapping your mind around the world you are in. In mythology, that's an actual function. It orients the listener to, or observer, to where they are. So our ancestors had a lot of stories and mythologies around and explanations for what they experienced on their day-to-day, from sunrises to sunsets, seasons, eclipses, equinoxes, solstices. The connection with the movement of the heavens and the stars was something our ancestors related to. They wanted to understand more and had a dialogue about. The creative forces within them needed to understand their connection to these experiences and these events. And so a lot of times all over the world, in different time periods, in different cultures, whether it's Chinese mythology, Indian mythology, Native American mythology, Norse mythology, South American mythology, wherever you want to go, there was a story associated with certain events that would happen and a description. And so if you geographically move to a different place, you might get a different description but of a similar quality to an event. So in the Eastern mythos, it was a dragon that was eating the sun. That was what an eclipse, a solar eclipse, was kind of viewed as and encapsulated as. And so there were maybe noises you would have to make to bring the sun back, or maybe sacrifices, depending on if you're in a different culture. And so these things directly affected the orientation and psyches of the people and their phenomena around them. Fast forward to today, and we don't have as many questions about, say, earthquakes and why they happen, or lightning storms, or even eclipses and equinoxes. We do know our seasons and our things in that way very well. But the next big kind of frontier, because there's always a new frontier, is dealing with the unknown. And normally that means our place in a much bigger universe. So even in astronomy and cosmology, 100 years ago, in the 1920s, there was the Great Debate. It was literally called the Great Debate between Curtis and Shapley, who were astronomers answering the question, how big is the universe? Is the Milky Way galaxy, saying Milky Way galaxy, synonymous with saying the universe? Are they one and the same? Or are some of the star clusters we're beginning to see and objects we're beginning to classify and understand more with telescopes that are seeing further, are they island universes unto themselves, as Immanuel Kant, the philosopher, posited? Are they something outside of what we know? This is mind-blowing. The debate was eventually settled, and this was only 100 years ago, by Edwin Hubble of Hubble telescope fame. And now we know that it's not just other galaxies, but there are millions, and then we learned billions, and now there's an estimated 1 to 2 trillion galaxies out there, each galaxy with potentially hundreds of millions, if not more, billions of stars within each, which is incredible when you really think about it. And that's a different orientation. So now a lot of our storytelling is about aliens. What else is out there? Is there life out there? What happens when it mixes with humans? So I opened this episode with Transformers. And you've got Peter Cullen, legendary voice actor for Optimus Prime, going all the way back to Gen 1 in the 80s. And you have him go right into, before time began, there was the cube, right? And you have this launch right into the mythical. Before time, there was the cube, which provided all sorts of energy. They know not where it came from. You've got the setup of good and evil. There was warring factions happening that destroyed their planet, and now the battleground is Earth. And these alien robots are now living amongst us. And that's really important to set up so that you can now deal with the experiences the characters are having in the universe you're experiencing. So if you just had Optimus Prime kind of roll up out of nowhere with no context of what was happening, and he was just a truck that transformed all of a sudden into a giant alien robot, the context would be lost. It'd just be like seeing a glitch in the Matrix. It wouldn't make much sense. You would just be experiencing something like, what is happening? So Transformers, and this is a common motif you see in a lot of movies, was kind of orienting us towards life on other planets. And what is that like when they're at war with each other and they're now living amongst us? And there are good ones and there are bad ones, the Autobots and the Decepticons. And as Optimus Prime would demonstrate and say about humans, that there's a lot of bravery in humans. So here's this relationship now and this dialogue within the cosmological function that not all these aliens, excuse me, even robots are bad. But then you have your sinister ones. And that's us grappling with the unknown. No longer worrying about necessarily sunrises and sunsets and, say, the Egyptian mythos of this endless battle that's happening and why the sun rises, but more asking, what about alien life, high-tech advanced alien life? And this gets you into the nuances of, say, aliens that invade the Earth. What happens when that happens? Movies like Independence Day. How do we rally together? What is our relationship to hostile forces? War of the Worlds. What is our relationship to something that you can't reason with? There's not even a communication with. You start to see, or alien or aliens, us now advancing to a point where we're traveling to other worlds, and then we crash land and we come in contact with a very, very hostile force, and that wants to use us as hosts. So you start getting into, how do you orient yourself amongst the billions and billions of galaxies out there, life potentially out there? These are the questions we're now moving to when it comes to the unknown. And typically it has that alien component. Even in Man of Steel with Superman, it's Krypton that's being destroyed. Again, another little parallel here with Transformers, worlds being destroyed and kind of the last remnant of something being saved. In the case of Superman, it's a child encoded with the DNA of all of his ancestors that's jettisoned off to Earth, Kal-El. And that's why this child is special. and what happens when humans interact with a child that's special like that. There's a great line where he says, "This man is not our enemy." And it's a great scene because they're told in the Superman movie, "You are not alone. You are not alone. One of us is hiding amongst you, and he must be given back to us." So then the military is involved. Now, how do we deal with those questions? That's all the cosmological function of myth. George Lucas, with Star Wars, opened up his great space opera with "A Long Time Ago in a Galaxy Far, Far Away." And that came out in 1977. So without the great debate in astronomy of even are there other galaxies, who knows what he would have said about another place far, far away. But Campbell, who was heavily influencing George Lucas when George was reading his Hero with a Thousand Faces, Lucas was launching us into the mythic dimension. And when Campbell and Lucas talked about this, it was a fascinating conversation because Lucas valued that aspect of the fairy tale in the highest sense of the word, the highest regard of the word, so much that he did not want, and paid for this is a fun fact about Star Wars, he did not want the regular credits that you'd see at the beginning that go to the actors to interrupt the experience of going into the mythical dimension. So no starring Harrison Ford as Han Solo. If you notice, it just launches you right into it. And he paid for that from the Directors Guild to make sure that when people sat down, they were transported to another place, which is amazing. And then within that universe, a lot of questions and things are being asked. So oftentimes it's us encountering aliens or aliens encountering us, hostile, negative, or positive. Stargate, the movie, asks this question about our own Earth's history, that do we have this connection to other worlds? And then the adventures that are had in traveling faster than light through these portals, these stargates to other places. And in doing so, what kind of things would you encounter in running up against alien species who are more advanced, not as advanced, those who are under tyranny, like in the movie Stargate itself, where they find out that their narrative has been, their history has been hijacked and they're worshiping false gods. This is something I talk a lot about in Inverting the Journey, where you have a shadow side to these things. And creators know in storytelling that they can see the power in the mystical just as much as they can in the cosmological and in the other two functions as well of myth. And they can take that, which has a tremendous power, your origin story, how you orient yourself to the universe that you are loving from these intellectual properties that you maybe have grown up with, or even the world itself in what's talked about. And then you can perhaps use that to, as the dark forces are very aware of, to twist it and change it. And that's the subject we'll be going further deeper into with specific examples. But there's that shadow side too when it comes to the cosmological function and how storytellers and artists and how this whole dance goes together and how it can be abused, or something we should watch out for when it comes to art. There is a essence of art that we can protect and that we can cultivate for the generations to come. So there's a lot of different aspects when it comes to the cosmological function. It serves a purpose in orienting ourselves to help understand the unknown. Again, a lot of times that's alien life, or what happens when we come in contact with that. In Star Trek First Contact, the movie, we had to first advance to warp drive before the Vulcans would recognize us as a civilization they could sit down with at the table and talk to, right? We had to cross a certain threshold to be seen on the radar of a civilization worthy of importance. That's the cosmological function. And in another place you see it is in dating and romantic comedies. A lot of the times the unknown isn't just in the scientific or the phenomena of the heavenly spheres, but it's within our own world. So figuring out the ritual of courtship, and are you getting things right? Are the messages being received in a movie like He's Just Not That Into You, or 10 Things I Hate About You, or When Harry Met Sally, these romantic comedies, Groundhog Day, What Women Want, right? You have these different examples of people dealing with the unknown, pushing up against it, relationships. How do you maneuver through with integrity? Are there games that you play at first? Where is it true? Even in a movie like Hitch, where a dating guru is sought after, that's the cosmological function, in a sense, I would argue, because you're seeking to understand your place in the universe and world around you within a specific area. And in this case, it's the universe of relationship. So there are other ways to view the cosmological function. And it's a great reminder that it serves a purpose, that it's there, and it helps orient us to the world around us. And so which one are you guys more into? Say the mystical or the cosmological, or a little bit of both? Some stories may hit you at different seasons in life, maybe origin stories, maybe deep thinking movies. Again, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, 2001: A Space Odyssey. Where are we in this? Or do you like the more mystical, and to be transported and just to be in another world? And how those two go together is so great. So it's really multi-layered and complex, and Joseph Campbell gave us a lot of different ways to orient. And he said it's up to the artist to continuously update these metaphors, and to not have any pride or hubris when it comes to thinking, oh, we've got it all solved. Because just like I mentioned with the Great Debate, just 100 years ago, we weren't sure how many solar systems and how many, are we just one galaxy? And so I think a lot of people shoot themselves in their own metaphorical foot because they just toss out the myths of old, saying, oh, there's nothing to learn from them. We're so much more scientifically advanced. And I would say, are we? From which perspective? And which kind of paths are we choosing that might not lead to more harmony or coming together, or even ethical or moral questions that we still have to grapple with? And so these are things to definitely keep in mind when it comes to the universe, rendering an image of it, as has been said, and understanding how the phenomena works within it. So thank you guys for stopping on by. Like, subscribe, and share. It really helps. And wherever you are, as always, Godspeed, take care, and hopefully you're enjoying your journey. Peace.
Baba,
Yes, my son.
tell me a story.
Which one?
The story of home.
Millions of years ago, a meteorite made of vibranium, the strongest substance in the universe, struck the continent of Africa, affecting the plant life around it. And when the time of men came, 5 tribes settled on it and called it Wakanda.